Hello and welcome to Up Close. I'm Charles Clapsaddle, Station Manager for Manatee Educational Television, and it's my great pleasure to meet with Dr. Scott Hopes, the Manatee County Administrator. Dr. Hopes, thank you for taking the time to do this today.
Thank you, Charles.
I know how busy you are, but take time out to discuss what the Manatee County is doing, the leadership that you're providing, and the many great things that are happening throughout the county is a great benefit to the citizens.
I appreciate the opportunity.
So if I may, I'd like to start out and give you a little background about Dr. Hopes. He has a wide and varied history, and I want to read some of the highlights of his accomplishments. Dr. Hopes is an experienced international chief executive officer. He's an educator, extraordinary leader in government, education, and healthcare, experienced chief operating officer, public-private board chairman and board member, elected official, and successful entrepreneur with a demonstrated history of leadership working in healthcare, higher education, K through 12 education, and local, state, national, and international governments, as well as Fortune 500 companies. Now, I can continue to go on with Dr. Hopes and his many accomplishments, but suffice to say that it's wide and varied, and he brings all of this background to Manatee County government to help. So, Dr. Hopes, one of the great things about your accomplishments is that the fact you've been here less than a year. I think April 1st.
April Fool's Day.
And you hit the ground running, because immediately as you began your position, Piney Point developed into what could have been a catastrophe. But you hit the ground running on that. You pulled state, federal resources together to help solve the situation.
Well, and I'll tell you, because literally it was the first few hours of me taking over at that time as the interim or the acting county administrator. In hindsight, you could not have strategized a better opportunity to get introduced to your new staff and leadership than that real life exercise in emergency preparedness and activation of all the resources of local government to mitigate, which was a pending and probable disaster north of the river.
And it could have been. But you're working with the state and at the federal level, the Army Corps of Engineers, kind of mitigated the potential damage that was there. But one of the things that clearly your experience and background helped was the fact of working with the legislature for them to come up with funding to help solve the problem. Your cooperation, your insight into working with the state helped raise that funding so this problem can be solved once and for all.
Yeah, and what was interesting is obviously with my background with the legislature and leadership, as well as the governor's office and the staff, is that we engaged the governor in the very beginning. That was one of the first calls that I made to get that assistance in anticipation of needing it. And obviously it proved to be the right call, because as you know, within 24 hours, Piney Point actually did breach. Yes. And the governor had already mobilized the assets of the state government. The National Guard was activated to bring in equipment with Chinook helicopters and things like that. And the governor himself on Easter Sunday morning met with me and some of county leadership at the EOC. And I believe it's because of that early engagement with Congressman Vern Buchanan and the Army Corps and the EPA and DEP and the governor's office and our local legislative delegation were right there with me. I have told many people since that legislative session last year, in my more than 30 years working in Tallahassee It was the easiest $100 million I ever got out of the legislature. And it was one trip up there. And as you know, the Capitol was pretty much off bounds to the public because it was, at the height of the COVID pandemic. And so I remember, being summoned to Tallahassee and had to fly up there late in the afternoon and being escorted into a ghost town of a Capitol to go before a committee of the House. And the DEP secretary at the time, Secretary Valenstein, kind of laid the foundation. And then I came in, and the next thing you know, before the legislative session was finalized, we secured $100 million in the initial funding to ensure that we were on a path to permanently close, and as the governor has stated, Governor DeSantis, to write the final chapter in the book of Piney Point.
And I want to talk a little bit more about Piney Point as we get through this discussion. But your leadership and understanding of the process during this whole thing really helped mitigate the situation and find out efforts to help solve it. And that was critical. But if that wasn't enough, sir, there were other issues that kept popping up that as the county administrator you had to deal with. Because it wasn't too long after that Manatee County started to experience the red tide effects again. Again, it was a situation that required not only understanding, leadership, but a purpose to help solve this.
There were no shortage of events that were sort of thrown my way, but we did have red tide, and preceding red tide, we had the macroalgae bloom that sort of may have been a precipitating factor. So we had these environmental effects that were cropping up. And of course, many people still remember a few years ago when red tide devastated, our tourist industry on the beaches and our restaurants and the like. And so that again was an opportunity to mobilize resources. And I think we did an extremely effective job at attacking red tide from the land, sea, and air. Some of the experiences of Piney Point led to me actually using the emergency authority to implement a college interns plan for a drone fleet for Manatee County government. When I was attending board meetings to assess whether or not I felt I personally could be successful as county administrator, when Manatee County interns, that class of college interns presented their projects. Right. One young man presented his project was an entire business plan and operating plan for a drone service. And after getting the first 4 days of invoices for the drone service for Piney Point, I asked my staff, I said, pull that student, I may say kid, but pull that student's proposal for a drone fleet, reviewed it and implemented it. And that was one of those things that we learned quickly from the Piney Point experience, which proved invaluable when red tide was approaching, because we were able to send out the drone fleet on a daily basis to monitor, in addition with the DEP data, to look at where we were and what we needed to do to mitigate it. And I think by all accounts, Manatee County government did an extremely effective job at really attacking red tide, both before it reached our shores and then once it reached our shores. In fact, we were so effective that we actually mobilized our resources on Longboat Key, not just the Manatee County portion of Longboat Key, but we received authorization to address the effects of red tide on Sarasota County's portion of Longboat Key.
And that's like just forward thinking. There's cooperation between different municipalities to make sure that whatever the situation is, working together, you can help solve it.
It's really all about preparation, collaboration, coordination, and really communication. And I think we developed a pretty effective approach.
And very much so, and I think you've been recognized for that, sir. But right after the red tide and during the process, there were other things going on because you moved right into the budget session,
Yes.
the consideration. And I want to take some time to talk about the budget because it's very significant this year, and because there's some significant changes in the budget
Right.
that we want to talk about. But coming out of the red tide situation and other things, meeting with your staff, moving right into the budget and the county commission to see how best this budget can move forward. Right. And if I may, sir, the total annual budget for coming up is $2.2 billion. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's a significant amount of funding that's available, and almost $923 million in net spending.
Yes. So nearly $1 billion in net spending out of that
$1 billion.
budget.
I mean, that's significant. And we want to go into where some of that spending is going because through your vision, there's significant things that are happening in a wide variety of aspects. And if I may, but before I get too far ahead, not only is the budget almost $1 billion, you also, for the first time since 4 years, have reduced the property tax.
Yes.
And that's significant. And what was that, a 4.7% decrease? What was the budget?
The decrease in the millage was 0.2 mils,
which was
significant. It was significant, and I think that was that may have been a test of my stamina, so to speak, because that was after the budget had been developed, and it was somewhat of a curveball that the commissioners threw, and I think many were probably surprised that staff and I were able to figure out how, after fully funding their level 1 and level 2 priorities, that we were able to deliver to them a budget which not only hit their target but exceeded their expectations for a tax cut to property owners in Manatee County.
And anytime you're exceeding expectations, that's always a good thing.
It is. I mean, I will tell you, I went through a 24-hour period where I was not happy with my collective bosses. But once I came down from that initial reaction and was able to actually think through it and identify a pathway to deliver that tax cut, right. I was somewhat pleased with myself, I have to say.
Well, good for you, because I mean it's a big step, to be able to reduce that and still have that net spending still at such a high.
Well, and as we begin to talk about the budget, keep in mind, I took the helm of Manatee County government on April 1st. By April 1st of each year, a majority of the budget's already put into place.
That's right.
And so in my early conversations, while I was assessing the likelihood of me to be successful in this job, I gained an understanding from a majority of the commissioners, what their aspirations were for delivering on their campaign commitments, what their priorities were with regards to capital improvements to Manatee County. And so literally, to the credit of the staff, I engaged in really rewriting the budget that had already been written up to that point in order to incorporate the vision and priorities of the commissioners in the budget, which is the process I think is appropriate because the taxpayers and the electorate elected the commissioners to create the Manatee County that the people would like to see. And unless you incorporate that into the budget, it's not going to happen.
That's true. And you have a really terrific finance manager with Deputy Administrator Jan Brewer, and very thorough, detail-oriented, and who pretty much can answer any question anybody throws at her.
She has an exceptional, financial mind and operational insight, and she quickly became, my really right-hand resource, and was the first person who I elevated to the level of Deputy County Administrator.
Sir, if I may, I want to take a moment to talk about the CIP, which in this budget is significant. For those people watching, the CIP is a capital improvement plan.
Right.
And it's a long-term plan. It requires a lot of detail. It requires a lot of information as you're putting that together.
Yeah.
But this year alone, you're investing $1.1 billion in infrastructure, public safety, parks, and the environment. And we'll get into the detail in each one of those categories in a moment. Right. But that's significant.
Yeah, we write a 5-year capital improvement plan, and it's a rolling 5 years. And so this capital improvement plan, which was implemented this fiscal year, is a $1.1 billion capital improvement, the largest CIP in the history of Manatee County. And the critical importance of it is that when you look back at the past 10, 15 years, and when you look at how Manatee County reacted to the recession, there were about 300 layoffs or staff reduction. The departments were all consolidated to save money and expenditures, and capital improvement plans and budgets shrunk. But what appeared to have occurred is when the economy started growing again and the population started growing, Manatee County didn't pivot, and so there was a different mindset, and so it was almost like a stagnation, and so what needed to occur through the budget is to play some catch up. All of us experience the traffic and congestion that is a result of this population growth, and so the critical importance of a new strategy for the capital improvement plan to ensure that we adequately invest in infrastructure, in public safety, in the environment and parks was critical. I'm a firm believer that if you don't have a plan, it's really hard to get to where you want to end up.
Very much so.
And the CIP and the budget is the initial pathway to ensure that you're moving in the right direction.
And if I may, sir, let me just share some of these figures with you and for your comments. $350 million investment in transportation projects, $80 million in parks, 39 in public safety. Significant investment and across the next few years as you go forward. But one of the things that's clearly and it's on everybody's mind is transportation.
Yes.
And you've looked at transportation very intently to see how best those dollars can be used. And you've looked at the county-wide to see what roads need that. And if I may, you're going to widen Lorraine Road, Upper Manatee, which is really needed. Expand Erie and Moccasin Wallow, and then improvements to 59th, 75th Street and upgrades to 63rd Avenue. That's countywide.
That's the beginning.
And that's just the beginning.
Right.
And we'll talk about your projected transportation thing. But that's a countywide investment throughout all of Manatee County, which is really significant. You've pointed out on many occasions that Manatee County is a place that you should feel great about living in, great about playing in, working in, and having a home. There's a lot of features that you're bringing to the table, sir, that are adding to that aura of living in Manatee County, because you need it to be on people's minds. I want to live in Manatee County.
Without a doubt. As you know, I spent 4 years, I think 4 years plus on the school board.
And as chair,
Manatee County, and as chairman of the school board, and really begin to work hard at helping to contribute, making it the #1 school district in the state of Florida, so that all these people have an opportunity to raise a family and educate their children.
Right.
And prior to that, as you know, I was on the board of trustees of the University of South Florida system for nearly
Correct.
5 years. So if you take infrastructure and you take transportation, I got my first dose with the school buses.
That's true.
Because they gotta move around. And so like Moccasin Wallow and Erie Road, it was evident because as chairman, we were building 2 brand new schools, a high school on Erie and an elementary school on Moccasin Wallow. And I remember going out there and looking around, and it's like, you had an orange grove next to one construction site, and fields and agriculture around the others. But you also could tell that there were things that were getting ready to happen from a community growth perspective and
Right.
neighborhoods. Moccasin Wallow is a hurricane evacuation route, and it was a little 2-lane road.
That's true.
And we were putting in an elementary school there, and it was evident without me being engaged in the county planning process that things were going to happen. I remember having a campaign sign in an orange grove, which is now houses, and it wasn't that long ago. I mean, I ran for re-election in 2018. And so these investments in transportation, were critical to get moving, and that's the other aspect of it. I was surprised to find that there were road projects that were budgeted, funded, and approved, but had not been moving. Moccasin Wallow was one. And a lot of that had to do with you had to acquire property to
Right.
widen the road. And there had been an attitude, let's say, about giving people years of opportunity to decide whether or not they wanted to sell property to widen a road. There's a reason why government has eminent domain.
Right.
And I quickly got with the general counsel, and we came up with a different approach to determining what was important for a community, and to sort of make it clear that we were going to put community first while respecting individual rights and property and values of property. And I'm happy to say in this less than 1 year period of time, we have acquired tens, if not hundreds, of parcels of property to be able to begin and complete these road projects. And Moccasin Wallow was a critical one where I personally got involved in the negotiations for the most critical piece on the corner of Moccasin Wallow and 301. And I gained a new friendship with Mr. Stuart Chin, and he and I met, and I met with his lovely wife and sister, and we came to terms, and we acquired that last critical parcel a couple of months ago, and Moccasin Wallow is now under construction for widening it. But it's a fascinating process that one goes through to contribute to the infrastructure needs and demands of a community as growing as rapidly as Manatee County.
And a lot of that is just forward thinking, thinking what's best for the community. It's a matter of building partnerships. It's a thing of cooperation with people and building and growing, nurturing, that partnership. So it's the benefit goes to the county.
Partnerships and relationships, and also motivating, a lot of people and personalities to kind of move in the same direction.
So Dr. Hopes, transportation, a key element in people's quality of life. But another big aspect, and that you've been working on, and I want to hear all the details about it, is parks and recreation.
Yes.
Parks and recreation is something that everybody wants to be involved in. They always want this new ball field or this light something put in it. Tell us a little bit about the parks and recreation growth, because I can tell you right now, you've got the Premier Sports Complex,
Yeah.
which is, a highlight in any community.
Yeah.
But here in Manatee County, it's truly a highlight. But that's not just it. You're working GT Bray. You've gotten more facilities that you're building. So give us that kind of overview, if you could, for Parks and Rec.
Yeah,
and the
you know,
investment.
you have the eastern county that's rapidly growing, and Premier is an example of that. But Premier is very unique. That is a highlight really of the region and the southeast United States holding national and international events. And so if Premier out in Lakewood Ranch, we're well on our way to begin construction of an aquatics facility,
Right.
with I think it's a 10-lane competitive pool. We currently have, I think, 22 soccer fields, which we're adding lighting to on a regular basis, and there'll be locker rooms under construction. The library is already under construction. Nearly 50,000 square feet.
Wow.
And so that's rapidly expanding. Folks out in the western part of the county with GT Bray. GT Bray, undercover pickleball courts and clay tennis courts with underground, watering systems, improvements to the pool, and John Marble Park,
Right.
with a new gymnasium, which we have too few of. But we're going to need to renovate the east southeast pool in that area. So one of the things that I remind people of, the cost of development is in the preservation and protection of the environment. And that includes parks and
Absolutely.
green spaces. We have one parcel. We're getting ready to receive a second parcel next to it in Parish for a parish central park,
Nice.
which Parish does not have a county park.
Not yet.
We have expanded soccer fields at Buffalo Creek in that area, and are looking to expand that even further. We're looking at additional soccer fields out east, in working with families who are interested in contributing to that. Improvements on the beach. If you look at what we're doing with Coquina Key,
Right.
and the porous parking lot, where it's a concrete parking lot, but the water flows through the concrete into collection, so that you no longer have that flooding in the parking. So massive improvements to Coquina Park, the Coquina North and Coquina South boat ramps. And so, look, we have to provide safe places for families to play,
Right.
and for children. Our trail system, where we've got federal funding requests in to continue to expand our trail system. You look at what we've done in Robinson Preserve, and I mean,
place.
we have a beautiful collection of parks and environmental preserves for families to enjoy the outdoors. We just yesterday, or is it yesterday, the day before, I think it was yesterday, we took back full possession of the Rye Preserve. It had been utilized by the Sheriff's Youth Ranch for family foster care, which is no longer provided for in the legislature. So that had been somewhat dormant for a couple of years, and I made the very difficult decision of terminating that license agreement with the Sheriff's Youth Ranch, which is not even local. It's out of North Florida, and through a rigorous process.
Right.
So that will be turned into a very unique park for both families and other events, and we're working to provide an opportunity for Foundation of Dreams to have their youth camps for special needs children year round, and so we're on the move in that area, so people have a number of places to go to kind of refresh and enjoy the beauty that this part of Florida has to offer right here in Manatee County.
And one thing, sir, and I know you briefly mentioned it, the other thing that the Manatee County should be very proud of is the fact of the Lincoln Park pool.
Oh, and I'm glad you brought that up, because
on the horizon.
Right, when because that was even a focal point for the school board in working through that. As you know, the school district has a middle school right across the street, and I've been out there a number of times throughout that construction, but we've had a number of areas that really were underserved with investment in both the infrastructure and parks. Up in the Palmetto area and Memphis and the like, we're putting in sidewalks and road improvements, things that are sorely needed. So any of our residents in that area are aware of the investment the county's making, and they're part of our community. And I'm looking forward to the opening of that park. And that's one heck of a water slide that is part of that aquatics facility.
It is, and as you drive by it, it's pretty impressive.
It is. It is.
So, sir, we want to move on a little bit and talk about things. One of the things that you mentioned, and this is something that the county should be very proud of, is the line of credit that the county is going to apply for.
Right.
Not only are you, and I believe the number is 130 million?
Yeah, we did, I think it was 3 separate tranches. So we did 2 $40 million lines of credit, and then an additional $50 million line of credit for the utilities. And the reason for that is we, in order to expedite getting all these projects moving, I felt that the best strategy was to get these projects into design and engineering before we go out and do long-term bond funding to get these projects completed. And so you look at the situation where we're all competing for resources, we're competing for talent, construction firms, the like, and the bond markets are good right now, but the problem is when you go out and you bond for long-term debt, you have a spend requirement. And so if the projects aren't ready to go because you haven't designed them and engineered them, then you've got to spend all that time with designing and engineering. And because of the low cost of money, we were able to basically get this, $130 million of a credit line, which we started drawing immediately at 0.47% interest. And so anybody that's borrowed money for a home or a business or something like that knows that's nearly like free money. But what it did is it allowed us to accelerate getting projects moving. And so I'm really pleased with how well that strategy has worked. it also gave us the opportunity to go into it having a more reliable cost estimate for these projects. And so we've been watching the bond markets and our bond consultants, financial consultants, have been watching it, daily, but definitely weekly, so that we can identify the right time to move forward with those bonds, because it takes about 3 months, if you're well organized, to move towards that permanent long-term debt. And so we're nearing that point, because we want to get in there before those bond rates go up, because right now it's extremely affordable. And we've been very conservative with our debt capacity. The other thing that I might note is that the county had amassed substantial stabilization funds and reserves. Mm-hmm. And so we initially, with the budget, did a pretty good sweep of those funds to invest them in these projects to get them moving as well.
So you're covering all bases.
We are, and I was comfortable with the feedback from Deputy County Administrator and CFO Jan Brewer and others that I felt, and I think people are going to be surprised, that from what I was seeing in the community with regards to construction, real estate values, right, that it was worth that moderate risk to spend down those reserves, still maintaining the state maximum, of 20%. So we have solid reserves, hundreds of millions of dollars in reserves still, but we were able to take that money that was sitting there and not being translated into infrastructure in the community, in right, parks, in pools, and things like that, to get it to where it belongs, which is to the benefit of the taxpayers and the residents of Manatee County.
And I would say, sir, that, working with your county commission, you've done an extraordinary job of shifting that, to making sure that that funding is going to those specific things that need the work. Now, sir, if I may, I want to take a moment to talk about the workforce for Manatee County government. You have a very talented, and it's about 2,000 people, county employees, very talented. But you do have some openings. Sure. And I think in today's paper, there's an article about so many people who have already put in applications. You're having another job fair. Why is that important to continue to reach out and develop your county employees?
Well, as the county continues to grow, the demands for services grow. Record number of building permits. It takes staff to issue those permits and process those applications. And as I said, we're competing for the workforce. And you've known me for a number of years. I'm a pretty competitive guy. The first job fair that we had at the convention center, I think we made over 80 offers for employment on the spot. I would say it was about a month ago. We were right around 290, pushing 300 vacancies. Now, keep in mind, we added over 140 new FTEs in order to be able to do all this work and meet the needs of a rapidly growing community. And I get a report on Fridays, and I think we were down to about 240 something. So we filled in a month, or a little over a month, we filled, nearly 50 positions. And we've been successful as people go on to other opportunities. We've been successful, in replacing them. But we're all competing for talent. And I think the full complement, if we were fully staffed, we're pushing about 2,200 FTEs.
And I think that's terrific. We're kind of winding down a little bit, but I have several other questions. I want to give you the opportunity to respond to those. Mm-hmm. And one of the most important things, and again, you've spoken on this many times, you have great people working with you, is economic development. Yes. And if we could, let's combine that discussion along with the redevelopment accomplishment as well. Because they kind of go hand in hand. You want new companies coming in, but there's a lot of companies that need to be redeveloped.
As I've said, in how I view my role with Manatee County and working with the commission is to make Manatee County the #1 place in the Southeast United States for people to move to start a business,
Right.
grow a business, and raise a family, educate a family, and as we talked about, play. And so I smile because I've got a pretty strong international business background. I've worked with some of the best government organizations on economic development. Spent a tremendous amount of time with Enterprise Ireland, around the world, actually. And this is the funnest part. Look, I'm having a ball. I mean, this is the hardest job I've had. I have very little time to kind of like just sort of relax and enjoy this wonderful environment. But I'm having a lot of fun. But I will say, I thoroughly enjoy the economic development and redevelopment aspects. I enjoy working with companies to make it easier for them to do business in Manatee County, for them to grow their business, and for the county to help invest in their businesses. And so you're probably aware of some of the hallmarks. I mean, the sort of last mile Amazon facility on Talabast.
Tremendous.
I had commissioners that were upset with me, because they didn't know about it, and it's built. Well, that's part of being competitive in that economic development environment,
Right.
because these national and international companies have options of where they want to go and do business, and many of these deals, so to speak, are sort of secret, and the legislature allows that, until they're being rolled out.
And I think that's important from a county perspective, is to look county-wide.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't just, one company. These are companies with national and international impact.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of business that you want to bring to Manatee County.
Yeah.
And also, the county has been really involved in helping to develop light industrial.
Yes.
As well.
Yes.
And that's countywide as well, which is important.
It is. We have the Southwest TIF,
Right.
that allocates a share of already collected tax dollars that are generated from all the new economic development in that area to be able to reinvest in new businesses and existing businesses. We've got it's both a manufacturer of custom wheels as well as a large warehousing and distributorship down in that Talabast area in the Southwest TIF that just dramatically expanded their operation and had the opportunity to go to their ribbon cutting, their First Watch, their corporate headquarters here in Manatee County, had that ribbon cutting. Fifth Third Bank is expanding with new branches in the county.
Exactly
of course, Amazon's facility. We've got a couple of really massive, exciting projects that we've been working on for this past year, and I've actively been working on the past 6 months that are coming very close to being closed, one of them is around 2,000 new jobs.
Wow.
Another one is about 2,200 new high-paying jobs. Along with those two projects alone are looking at combined about $450 million in capital investment in new buildings.
That's fantastic.
And that is just a small portion. I am amazed at how word is getting out of the national and international companies that want to do business in Manatee County that I and the EDC are partnering with and meeting with these companies weekly.
And clearly, sir, one of the key things is businesses continue to develop, more people are coming here to work, jobs are going to become available. One of the key things, and you've been involved with this very closely, is workforce affordable housing.
Yes.
And just recently, within the last day or so, there was the opening of an affordable housing place right here in
I think
Manatee.
Sandpiper, I think.
Sandpiper was the
Yeah.
and everybody there said, well, we need more of
Yes.
these. We need
Yes.
more of these because we have people who are working, we have people, teachers, police officers, nurses. These are all people that need that affordable housing. So that's a big effort on the county as well.
Yes.
To kind of move forward on that.
So it's a huge effort. Many people may not know, but I mean, the first company I ever started when I was 16 years old in Houston, Texas, was a construction company. Literally built houses for U.S. Homes back in the mid 70s, and so with all this growth, I mean, anybody knows. I mean, the supply's not there.
Right.
The supply's not there regardless of how much money you really have to spend on housing. But it's a problem that we experienced when I was on the school board,
Yes.
affordable housing for the workforce, whether it's bus drivers, teachers, cafeteria workers. Same thing with Manatee County government. We're trying to recruit talent from around the country. They have to have a place to live.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that we're doing as Manatee County government, we're leveraging the dollars we get from the feds through HUD and other programs. But more importantly, we embarked upon my arrival on a process of doing a comprehensive inventory of all county-owned property and real estate. And rather than immediately surplusing it, we are identifying those properties to determine the best value and best contribution to the community. And much of that is for workforce housing. And so we are going through our own rezoning process. So those county-owned properties can then be surplused, or we can use it to partner with entities who are committed to build workforce housing, not just for rental workforce housing, but more importantly for housing that people can get into, they can purchase and maintain it as affordable, well into the future. And so there will be some very exciting projects that will be rolled out very shortly. But we still continue to invest and deploy dollars so entrepreneurs can build basically your one-off affordable entry homes.
And you have tremendous support from your Board of County Commissioners that want to move forward and see this opportunities for affordable and workforce housing move forward. Just have a couple more questions for you, sir. And this one, if affordable housing is tough, how tough was redistricting? You put together a team. You hired a consultant that worked directly with you to look at redistricting, which was a tough process because everybody looks at different ends of the table and they see that. Give us a little recap on the redistricting efforts.
Well, I think the advantage was that I had been an elected official and had participated at the state level with redistricting. This was a different animal. This is a different situation. We experienced exceptional growth out east, and you had a pretty significant disparity in population. And I was not sure how it was going to go, but the commission came together, and it helped to have a good consultant, actually the most experienced redistricting consultant in the state. We brought in from Tallahassee, and we had a number of work sessions and education sessions,
workshops,
exactly, and were successful in getting every single commissioner engaged in the process, even the at-large commissioners, which technically were not affected by it.
Correct.
And we actually completed it well before the deadline. And I think the commission did great work. So we ended up with what you would refer to, I guess, as a rural district, which includes some of these new semi-urban areas, a coastal district, which incorporates probably at least 90 to 95%,
right,
of coastal Manatee County, or at least the saltwater coast. And I believe we effectively redrew the lines for preserving the urban core, and which is District 2, and District 4, sort of compressed District 5, while ironically expanding the geography for District 1. And so you had what were the two largest by population. You actually reduced the population in District 1 through expanding the geography, which is very interesting. And I think we're the only ones that did it. The school district kind of did their own thing.
And this went back and forth for a period of time. But the end result is that all of the commissioners, for the most part, walked away with the benefit of knowing that they are represented, their district is represented.
And I think that is an attribute to how far this commission's come in the past, 10, 11 months since I joined the team, so to speak.
Final question for you, sir. And I know this is something that you're very involved with and is close to your heart. Water taxis.
Yes.
This is an idea that's been floated around for many, many years. It's an exciting thing. We have great access in and around this area. Why is water taxi such an important aspect as you kind of want to move forward?
Well, we have a lot of water. We have a lot of coastline. I have my share of boats and have spent time on the water for a number of years. And I wish it was my idea. But, when it came up, then it became a question of, this is a great idea. Why haven't we done it? We're going to do it.
Right.
And so, I spent nearly 20 years in South Florida. And was fully aware of the water taxi system in Broward County. And we've pulled it together. I believe the ITN is out on the street. A somewhat lofty goal, I was told this morning, of a water taxi being in operation by Memorial Weekend. I do believe we were going to have a water taxi of some sort Memorial Weekend. But I think as we're looking at multimodal transportation, it would be, I think, inappropriate to not consider water transportation. And most days of the year, we've got pretty calm waters, at least on the river, and in the intracoastal. So we have a unique opportunity to offer families and really the workforce an incredible way to get around a beautiful community and enjoy the dolphins and the manatees along the way. And so I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to the inaugural launch of it. And what I remind people who weren't quite so sure about it, we got a lot of construction going on some major roads and major bridges ahead of us.
That's true.
And
there's a lot of work. There's a lot of work.
Yeah, and I'm excited that the survey data shows that you've got 67% of the people would enjoy and benefit from it, and just thinking of those families that visit and families that live here that will take a benefit of the opportunity.
And it just adds a great new asset to what's available in Manatee County.
Yeah.
Dr. Hopes, unfortunately, we're out of time. I want to thank you very much for taking all of this time to talk to us. It's very important. It's very informative. You have such a grasp of information that the community would certainly kind of absorb, and it's important. It's important for your citizens, your constituents that are out there to understand the wide variety of things that are happening every day in their community.
And there's so much going on. And one of the things that came out of my first performance evaluation from the commission was that they wanted me to communicate more with the community, with the public.
Right.
And there are so many great things that the commission is doing for Manatee County, and Manatee County government is implementing. And it's important. It's important to benefit from the good work that you do to really inform both our residents and our visitors about what's going on in our community, and how we're the best community in the Southeast United States to move to and to enjoy all that we have to offer.
And if I may say, Dr. Hopes, Manatee County is very fortunate to have a man with your leadership and vision as we move forward. A lot of exciting things happen, as we've talked about today, but I think leadership coming from you is so important, and you've done a wonderful job. You are really a public servant.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. And
Thank
we
you.
hope to have you back for other programs.
Absolutely.
Or you
I look
can
forward to
host
it.
other programs with some, perhaps, Jan Brewer or somebody else within your staff.
Look forward to it.
All right, and thank you for
Thank
joining
you.
us on this special edition of Up Close on METV.